Hello and welcome to this demo video. Before we get started, I'd just like to explain to you a few things which will relate to all of the basic range spreadsheets. Number one, there is a key on the intro and setup tab of all of the spreadsheets showing what the different color headers mean. The blue headers mean that the cell's formulated, so it's locked and you can't change it. The yellow headers are where you can input data, and occasionally there might be some gray headers, which is just a different kind of data input, but we'll include instructions as and when that happens. The other thing that you can be aware of is there are ways in which you can damage the spreadsheet. So please do take a look at the link where you see this image, which will take you to a web page to show you how to better preserve your spreadsheet. Please feel free to keep a blank version of the spreadsheet somewhere, so that if you do mess up a spreadsheet that you're using, you can in fact just open a new one, a blank one. And some of the spreadsheets only last for a year, and then you've got a blank one to start the following year. So do keep a blank copy as a backup somewhere. And lastly, wherever you see this image, you can click on it. It'll take you back to the store where you purchased this product to see if you've got anything, any more products. One last thing, to see a demo video, you can click on this on a link that looks like this in order to go to the demo video, but that'll take you to the most recent demo. If in fact we've done upgrades and you're using an older version and you'd like to see the demo relating to your version, then do click on the watch on YouTube link, which will take you to that specific video on YouTube. So I think that's all you need to know. So without further ado, let's move on to this demo video. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the demo video for the Flow questionnaire. This is a very, very simple version of something that can be a lot more complex. So if you need something more involved, more complex, more detailed, please do get hold of me. But this is something that can be done in Excel, and this is a very, very, very simple version of it. And I've made it in such a way that you can actually set it up without necessarily having too much locked in place. So I'll show you what I mean. A flow questionnaire is really something that it's kind of like a flow chart. You've probably all seen the flow chart where it says, you know, it asks a question, then if it goes yes, then it moves you onto the next block, or if you say no, it moves you onto another block and asks another question. And if you select yes, no, you eventually go through until you find a solution. This is like that, but what it does is, instead of looking like a flow chart, it actually looks like a questionnaire. So it asks question one, and then depending on the answer, it puts up the next relevant question until you actually get to an answer, and then it displays that answer, and that's really how it works. So you don't see the whole flow chart. When you're answering the questions, what you see is just the next question that's required. So yeah, let me show you how it works. First of all, you can put in the test, you can put in the name of the questionnaire. So you can actually name it whatever the question is. Your business name will appear in here if you purchase the spreadsheet, and then you can put the name of the questionnaire there. That's all you really have to do to set up. The next thing you can do is go to the flow setup, which is the main tab, and I'll explain. This is where you set up your questionnaire. This is the actual questionnaire that you'd send out to people, but this is where you set up the questions. Now, this does do certain checks, but it doesn't do all the checks, and I'll tell you what it will alert you to, but then the other things that it won't alert you to. For example, you can list up to 8 questions. The first one you must have, the one with a little asterisk there, because that's the starting question. So this first one you must have, but you can then put in up to 8 questions. You can also put some notes relating to each of those 8 questions. So for example, you might have which spreadsheet platform do you prefer to use, or whatever, or is it, or no, it's actually a yes, no answer. So you'd have, is Excel your primary spreadsheet platform, or whatever you want to use. And then you might actually just say, for example, this includes all versions of Excel from Office 365 all the way down to whatever. So you might have some kind of explainer text that goes with the question. If you don't, that's fine, simply leave it blank. But if you do have some explainer text, then type that in next to each of those 8 questions. This section below here will show the same 8 questions again. The reason why this is here and why it's grayed out is because that's automated. And these are all if you answer no, and these are all if you answer yes. So this column you can't change. So when you enter 8 questions, it will then effectively leave you with yes and no. Now, what you do then is, the next thing you do is you come along to here and you must pick one of these 2. If it's blank, then that will turn yellow and go, you've got to either, each of the questions you filled in, the yes and the no's, you have to then assign each of those ones to either another question or give it a solution. So for example, question 1, if they answer yes, what happens? And we say, well, send them on to question 2. And he goes, oh, question 2, yes, I know what to do, then that's fine. If they answer no, then what do I do? Well, then you send them on to question 3. And then when you answer question 2, if they answer yes, what do you say? You either send them on to another question or you give them a solution. So for each of these ones, you give them a solution or send them on to another question. You either select the question you want to send them to if they answer yes for that question or no for that question, or you type in a solution that you want to give them if they answer yes for each question or no. So you would never have you would never have both of these filled in, because you wouldn't send them on to another question and give them the solution. You do one or the other. So you either want to select the next question or fill in the solution for each question and that respective answer. Now, this will check that all of these questions are valid. It will check that you don't have any duplicate questions over here. So it will do certain checks like that, and obviously it'll check that you've got one or the other of these ones. What it doesn't check is if you've got a continuous loop. So for example, if you say, well, if they answer yes for question 1, send them to question 2. If they answer yes for question 2, send them to question 1, because then they might just answer yes, yes, and go 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and it never ends. So you want to be aware of those loops. So what I would suggest you do is make sure that I would actually draw out the flow chart first, like they normally draw the flow charts, to see that you don't have any loops that keep going on and on and on and on and on and on. So that would be the one thing it doesn't check for that you need to be aware of. The other thing, which shouldn't be a problem, is that there are 8 questions and it can only show a maximum of 9 on the sheet, but you should never go back to a previous question anyway, because then that effectively will create a loop. So you should only ask each of these questions once, so that should be plenty of space. So just make sure you don't have any questions that go round and round and round in a loop. But once you fill this in and you're happy with that, that then will do the questionnaire. It's all done. So now what happens is it'll simply say question 1, yes, no. When you answer that, there's the text below it that explains it. But when you answer yes, for example, then it gives you question 2 and give it the explainer text. Whereas if you had answered no, then it gives question 3. This at the top here always says question 1, question 2, because that's just the numbers, but this way I've typed in question 3 is actually whatever you would have typed in as your question 3. And then when you then get to the end and you actually give the answer, and it doesn't have any further questions, but there's an answer, the answer pops at the top. So depending on what you answer, it gives you the answer at the top. So you can now send this one out. If you remove those, it clears it all back again. If you can then send this out. What I've done is I've left the workbook unlocked, so you can actually go to, let's just show this one here, the ribbon. If you go to review, you can protect the workbook, so you can actually go to your flow setup once it's done, right click and click hide, and the intro and setup, right click and click hide, and then you can protect and put the password in. If you do the protect workbook, please don't forget that password, because I can't help you crack into it. If you do, you want to make sure that you don't forget that password. But once you've locked this, you can then send this to someone and they can simply fill in the answers to the questions to see the ultimate solution without seeing all of your workings. And then if you do get it back, you can actually just come here and go unhide once you've unprotected the workbook and then protect it again. So that is the flow setup, the questionnaire, all the rest of it. I hope that that makes sense. If you need something more involved in this, please do come to me. But if that works for you, then great. I wish you all the best. What I would suggest doing, though, once you've done the thing, because of those loops and you made sure it all works, I would just go through the questionnaire, fill it in a few times yourself, answer some of the questions, and then see if it all works. But yeah, it really should do. The only other thing that I forgot to mention that might be a common issue is we don't want to make this text too long in the notes and the questions. So I have put in something behind the scenes, it counts a number of characters and will flag up if it goes beyond that. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a problem. I just think you just need to be aware of that. So if any of these cells do turn yellow and tell you that you've gone above the number of characters, what I would do, either change it to go below and then you know it's working, or else if you do need that text there and it does say you've gone too far, go to the questionnaire, fill it in, see how it actually looks in here. And if it still shows all right and still works, then you can go ahead with it if you're happy. But that is just a warning that it might not fit into the block. So I think that's all. Yeah, if this works for you, I wish you all the best and go for it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.